Marcia. Today is April 26th, I think. I am more than happy to make these video lessons for my students when they can't make it. I love it. There's a, I can get my, lesson plan across to you. You can have a video that you can revisit when you like. It'll stay up on YouTube as long as they keep it up. And you get sort of a workout video, if you will, with me, kind of a practice with me, that's how I see myself as really kind of a practice buddy for you in these videos. So I'm gonna introduce to you my teaching philosophy, the way I see breathing, the way I see projection, and just introduce all that to you. And you can come back and revisit that, and so you'll know where I'm coming from when you take lessons with me in the future and all that good stuff. I use some really cool things, Marcia. I use things like a balance ball. You don't have to get one, but if you happen to have one, these are great to sing on. So balance balls or yoga balls are terrific. They give me a sense of literally, that I'm low to the ground. This is really important because this gives me a sense of stability and strength in a way. So I like to use those in the studio. Again, if you have one, they're fun to sing on. And I think that you'll find that they're really useful. They change the way that you feel your core muscles, and that in turn helps your breathing muscles and that kind of thing. The other thing I use, I don't have one right now, is a breathing strap. So it's almost, these ladies in Louisiana make really like a seatbelt, a really stretchy, looks like a seatbelt, and it goes around your rib cage. And I have them in studio. Again, you don't have to get one, but some of my students have gotten them, and they put them under their clothes when they go to auditions or performances. They're called a remind airs. It's called a remind air, and it's meant to keep your awareness on where you're supposed to be breathing, which is your rib cage, right? A lot is talked about with the diaphragm, you breathing diaphragmatically, and that is true. But what I want my students to know is that the diaphragm is a single sheet of muscle that doesn't, you probably know this, the single sheet of muscle that we don't have, that has no nerve endings, and that we really don't have control over. So it's a passive part of our bodies that only lowers or gets flattened when the lungs inflate with air. So we can think about breathing into it, but we can't move it, we can't use it, so to speak, we can't feel it. It does sort of distend the tummy here a little bit, but what I want you to think, what I want my students to think, is not so much about the diaphragm, but about expanding the rib cage all the way around, right? So we have ribs in the back, we have ribs in the front. So the idea of 360 breathing is really important. Not this, which is what was emphasized to me for years. Well, why is this not coming out? This needs to come out more. This needs to push out more. And I was getting only half the story. So if we think about the breath as being all the way around, not just this, our tummies, you're gonna get a much bigger breath. You're gonna get a breath that lasts longer and that's easier to maintain or keep in a long note, right? Which is one of our big concerns when we sing is, well, how do I sustain notes, right? Especially when we perform, especially in musical theater, which is a lot of fun. I love teaching. So that's really my breathing philosophy. So if you get yourself breathing before you sing a song, Marcia, by putting your hands on your rib cage, just like this, some people like do this, where they put their hands on the back rib cage and breathe in. I'm gonna breathe all the way out. And breathe all the way in. What I'm also doing is I'm ensuring that my back isn't so tight that it's not expanding, right? Because sometimes our backs, just from everyday stuff, get so tight that they're not even moving. And that this is the only part of our bodies that's even expanding when we breathe or whatever. So sometimes before we sing, I think it's a great idea to stretch. Simple stretches. just to make sure that everything's loose and free and not tight. Water, is very important. I think that singers need to probably drink more water than most people. So that includes things like, caffeine-free teas. Herbal teas are great. Sometimes you got to be careful about what you may be allergic to in some of the teas. In other words, some teas have, ragweed in them or something similar to like echinacea, and that can cause allergies or whatever. But as long as you like a tea and it's, even teas with caffeine, I think are safe as long as you're hydrating as well. So caffeine is fine. I get questions about soda all the time. You're welcome to drink soda. Now, I personally don't drink carbonated beverages before I sing because I find that they have a weird effect on my voice. I don't know what that effect, I don't know why. To be honest, I can't explain it, but I do find that I can't, just the air bubbles and stuff. I just don't like it. I used to think that it didn't matter, and then I started performing more and going, oh, I don't like this feeling at all. I'll drink sparkling water and I'm like, no, this doesn't work. So I drink flat stuff on the day that I sing, but I hydrate a bunch. What's more important is hydrating a bunch before your audition or before your performance. The day of, sure, it's important to hydrate, but really you should have been hydrating, 3 days before, and even electrolytes, right? Electrolyte water is fantastic too. So that I want to get across too. Now, warm-ups. The very first warm-up that I do with my students, it's going to seem so simple, but it's so important for projection, and proper projection comes from resonance. Okay, so resonance is where and how we place the voice in order for it to make its proper sound. That's a way to put it. So the first thing that we do is we hum, Marcia, but we hum differently when we sing. A good singing hum is when our teeth are apart inside our mouths and our lips are barely touching. So I get a really buzzy mouth, and it's almost ticklish sometimes. So if it buzzes, Marcia, you're doing it right. If you're feeling nothing, keep shooting mentally, sort of shooting that sound toward the mouth and maybe opening your teeth a little more. You should feel it. So I'd like you to try it with me. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to play it and hum it at the same time. And I'm just going to do a pentascale, or 5 notes going up and down like this. I feel a little less fuzziness the higher I go, but I'm still going to keep trying. Now I'm not pushing, but I am thinking more forward and less up. Even as I go up, I try not to think of it. I'm psyching myself out. I'm trying not to think of it so much as, oh my goodness, I'm going up. I'm thinking of it more as everything's going out anyway. Everything's just going out this way, right? Without pushing. The danger, I would say, especially in musical theater, but in all contemporary, and even classical stuff, in all contemporary music, is this idea of pushing, strain, right? Especially when we're going to get into belting, what's called mixing. So all of that, that belt, every time that we, belting is essentially producing a sound that has less airflow, that is more conversational sounding, sounds more like speech, and it cuts through. Actually, that's sort of how it developed. It cuts through big orchestras and bands, cuts over that better than right? That's fine, but it's not going to be, that's not going to cut through like does that make sense? So that's how it really developed. Now, your singing voice, your body has two different sets of muscles. And you don't have to remember this. They're called the thyroarytenoid, which are what we would call like your chest muscles. And from now on, I'll refer to those as your TA muscles, and your CT muscles, which are your cricothyroid. Okay, so those are called CT muscles. That's the stuff that helps you sing. And TA is what I'm talking in right now. These are my TA muscles. That's TA. Okay. Sometimes we try to use both of them to get a sound that's high, to sing a high note, but that's really rich and belty and what we call mixy, right? So we take a little from here, they cooperate, right? We use these muscles, TA, CT, and they work together. Now that's going to be a little funky for a while, right? Now you might already, I can't wait to hear you, but you might already be doing it. A lot of my students, sometimes my students come to me and they're already essentially mixing beautifully. But for a while, if not, it can be weird because you're used to using maybe both of them, but they're not used to working together like this, like see the here, more of these muscles, more of these. They're used to working alone. They're not used to working together. So that's part of what I'm going to help you to do too, is use both of those sets of muscles as a team to make the sound that you want. All of our, we have one voice, but the different sounds that we can make, they're all tools that you'll use in your characters, in your songs as you like, so that you can create the characters and feelings and moods that you want using different sounds. You can use a ton of different sounds. So I'd love to hear you as far as, your range, and we'll see what your range is and see if, we can talk about maybe opening some stuff up. We can't stretch your range per se, but what we can do is find out if maybe some notes are hiding either up above or down below. We'll do that together too. I'm excited for that. But for now, use that hum. You don't have to use a keyboard or exact notes or anything, but the important thing every day is that you're humming in the low part of your voice, those TA muscles, somewhere in the middle, maybe where I'm talking, and then up above too. So try to hum in your low, middle, and high voice every day, like and then the mid voice, We're trying to get as many notes as possible, and then your upper range, so that every part of your voice is getting some sort of exercise every day. That's important because then they all feel like they're important and they can all work together. It's going to be great. So I can't wait to see you in person. Please feel better. Take care of your voice. Don't do these exercises, even the humming, until you feel like it's your voice is fairly clear and it doesn't hurt, right? So never do anything where your voice is sore or anything like that. Wait till it feels pretty good. But this is a pretty gentle exercise, so you can do it on days when you're like about 70%. You can use that hum to warm up. It's very gentle. When we wake up in the morning, it's great. So take your time with it. Get better soon, and I'll see you soon.